Hello, welcome back to the Trickway again with Mr. Grey and I. As the siren goes wheeling past, thank you, Mr. Ambulance. It's back for another review, of course, of Picard, and we're very delighted because we're really enjoying this series at the moment. This is episode
Thank
4.
God.
Yes,
Yep.
called No Win Scenario. Also directed by Jonathan Frakes. He makes the best stuff. He directs the best stuff, and he's in it a lot, actually, Grey. So.
Yeah.
I hope his backup. Well, his backup was decent because the whole episode was good. So he's obviously picked, or he's got an assistant director that he really likes. We like him directing, don't we? So
Usually, when a director has a second, he picks a guy that is.
so
really
you normally
good,
can
number
pick
one.
it. Then it's not given to you. You can go. I would like this person.
No. Directors usually have total control on their
Good.
picks for assistant or first. There's also second directors, first directors, second directors.
Do we know who the second director is for this? Because we should find that out. Because
No, we should. And basically, people don't know how that works sometimes, especially in motion pictures. If the director basically has the vision of the whole project, but then there might be something like a scene maybe with the secondary stars where they are talking or doing whatever they're doing. So the main director will tell the first director, listen, you go shoot that scene. You know what I like. You know what to do. Go shoot that scene while I'm paying attention to the main stars on this scene. So
yeah,
that director will go off and handle that scene, which saves time, so that the main director doesn't have to do it. So there's little things like that. And then
cool.
when you star in a show like Frakes is doing, you can't direct yourself. It's impossible. So his first, if he trusts him, will remind him, hey, do this, do that, or whatever, and you know, he goes along with all that and
Yeah,
stuff. So that's how that
sounds.
kind of works in TV and motion picture stuff.
There you go. You heard it here first from Mr. Grey, who's worked in the entertainment business before.
Yep.
15.
I was even a director, but not for motion pictures. But it was I did corporate videos and stuff.
Ah,
So I had to write the corporate videos and then block it out, and then I would go and I would be director of a crew. So I would have 2 or 3 cameras, and I would just say, take camera 1, take camera 2, stand by 2,
or like you
take
shit,
2.
just leave, please go home.
Yeah, it
Bye.
was
That'd be
fun. I
me.
didn't get to do it that often, but I
Oh,
did get to do it. I also got to run main camera on a couple of major high school football games. Pretty cool.
off man.
So that was fun. Football meaning American
American
football.
football. When he says
Yeah.
it's his football, if I say it's my football, it's easy. See,
Yeah.
what an easy way to understand it.
Hey, look,
Cheers.
everybody. Cheers.
Anyway, right. So We'll kick off. I really enjoyed this episode. So we'll break it down, and it'll be interesting to see what the scores are at the end of it. So we're doing this time jump thing, which, when done correctly, is, when I say time jump, they're not literally time jumping. They're going back to the past to explore a moment or a scene, and they do this
Yeah.
here, and it fits to the episode. So they're not doing it for the sake of it. They're in this 10 forward bar now. This 10 forward bar's in this quite a bit. In hollow representation and actual the 10 forward. Now that's coming from the Enterprise D, so they must have literally built one on Earth for all the cadets and stuff to go into, but instead of calling it 10 forward, just call it 10 forward bar, because it's so famous, and it looks nothing like actually 10 forward. It looks more like a proper bar or pub, doesn't it? I like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd go there for a pint.
they had it. Obviously, Guinan had her bar, and it was on the Enterprise, but it didn't look exactly like this. This bar was more of a throwback old bar as compared to one that was kind of half and half on the D,
Yeah,
on the Enterprise D.
yeah.
But either way, it's significant, so that's what counted.
Remember season 2 of Picard with young Guinan?
What, season 2 of what?
I know. He doesn't like me talking about this. Young Guinan was there with a 10
Yeah.
forward bar, which shouldn't have really been there, but because she lives so old. So there was a 10 forward bar from roundabout nowish all the way through to the future, which I love the thought of.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The only thing that bums me out about that, now that you brought it up, is the fact
Oh.
that because they used Whoopi Goldberg in season 2, she couldn't be in this one, and I kind of wanted to see
Kinda is
her
part
pop
of the
up.
crew, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe she is. Maybe she is.
And
Maybe we don't know.
yeah, we would have heard something, but maybe.
That'd be great. We want a couple of surprises. I like a couple of surprises. I don't like to hear it all. I like to be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So yeah.
Well, speaking of a couple of surprises, I don't know if you want to mention it now or later. It has nothing to do with the episode, so I'm not spoiling anything. But I don't know if you people out there have been watching the series and you watch the end. So when the episode ends, it actually
Oh, the
goes into
credits.
the open.
Yeah.
That's not the credits. No, it's the open of the show. They do a mini open at the beginning. That is not the real open of the show. The
Oh,
real open of
okay.
the show is at the end. And then after the open of the show at the end comes the end credits. Anyway, so at this opening at the end of the show, you see all kinds of, the music is the new theme is playing. It's great, and they're just going over all. But if you really pay attention to some of the things that are going by, you can see things that are going to be happening in
There's
the
a
series.
Voyager,
And I'm not
original Voyager's there.
right. So there's a scene where they talk about the Frontier Day, and they talk about basically the Space Museum or Starfleet Museum or whatever they're
Yeah.
calling it. And then it's very quick sometimes, but as you go through it, I froze two pictures and I had sent them to Trev. He saw it. And in one shot, you clearly see at the top, and it tells you where in the station, the space station or the museum, these ships are. So it's like a map. So you see USS Voyager, the original, at the top. The next one is USS Pioneer, which I don't remember off the top of my head. However, it is named after
It
an
rings a
old
bell.
NASA satellite, by the way, or NASA
Yeah.
probe, one of the first probes that went out. And then you have the USS 1701A Enterprise is next.
No
So
bloody
you know
B,
you're gonna.
C, D, or
So
E.
no. So you're gonna see the Voyager. You're gonna see 1701A. And then I didn't notice it because they fuzz it out so fast. I'm looking at the fourth ship and I'm going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I have to sit there and I have to freeze the frame. And finally I see it, USS Excelsior, which is Sulu's ship when he was captain.
Nice.
So
It's
that's
a
there
great
at the bottom.
idea.
So
It's a great idea, isn't it? It really is a great idea.
now that they have teased us with all this. You better show me that freaking museum, and I want to see every
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah, listen, if we have one episode where there's not a single bit of CGI to save the budget just for these ships, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'll take the hit right now, you know.
yeah.
So
It doesn't have to be a super long shot, but I want to see a nice couple seconds at least. Don't just go boop, 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 boop. I want to see a couple seconds of each ship.
it'll be Starship porn, mate.
And the D is going to be there because they already showed the models, right, in the show, and they go like, "Oh, nobody wants those."
Well, the saucer anyway. The other bits went kablooey, hasn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just be a
But they'll
saucer.
rebuild
Be a
it.
saucer just sitting there. Be like, "It's a UFO. What's going on? There's no
Hey, look,
battle bridge."
we know even today they recreate. They have to reconstruct things as they were original. For instance, like Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers, right? You think the plane that hangs up in the museum was the original? Yeah, some parts of it are definitely original, no doubt. But a bunch of parts are not, so they had to basically, fabricate to the specs as
Yeah,
best they possibly could, and
makes sense.
that's common. So they would be able to do that in Starfleet and just
Yeah,
take a saucer section that's completely empty on the inside, or
take it from
something, and just
another
stick it on it.
galaxy class.
Yeah.
Stick it on the bottom. Yeah, there's other
Yeah,
galaxy
and you don't
classes
even
still
have to have
kicking
any,
about.
and right, and technically you don't even have to have any insides to it, or not
'Cause-
much,
yeah.
and just throw it on.
An up to date, a new version of the Enterprise D, like the Neo Constitution. If there was like a Neo Galaxy class, I'd be like, oh yes, updated, modern tech. Yes.
Now
please.
tell me you wouldn't Jones out on this if this happens. I don't know if it's going to.
Well, if there'd be
I would
naughty things happening to me, mate. I can't say
Well,
on the podcast if it happens. I'd be like, yep.
So what I'm hoping happens somewhere like at the very last episode or whatever, or maybe the last shot, something like that.
Mhm.
I want to see the entire TNG on the bridge of the D. I think that would be a great closing scene to see them walk out and just kind of take their positions for the hell of it. And then it just ends right there with them on the bridge. I hope we see that, man. That would be.
There's a very decent chance it'll happen because in Terry we trust. Terry's a diehard like us, and
Yep.
if he wants it, if we want it, he wants it.
Yeah.
So, and the fact we're going to see these old ships anyway, what a great idea for the museum. Well done, Terry. Jesus, genius. Anyway,
The only way we might not see it, and I hope this is not the reason, would be that they would have to reconstruct the entire bridge of the D, which I don't know if it's still around anymore. I don't think it is. So they would have to rebuild it exactly the way it was.
Yeah. Or they could just do a green screen for a one-off, mate. For a one-off.
Yeah, but you'll notice it. The bridge is too dang big to put everybody.
Well, what do you do though? Anyway, right? Anyway, we're barely a sentence in, and we're
That's because we're so excited about what we're seeing.
This is
what we want
this
to
is
do.
biggest divergent we've had yet, I think. Anyway, right, so we do start 5 years back in this 10 forward bar, the original 10 forward bar. And some young officers come up to Picard, who's just trying to sit down and have a bloody meal in peace. And they come up and they're wanting some of the classic stories, aren't they, Greg? And he's a bit like, just let me eat, man. Come on. But they're like, come on, Admiral Picard, please. He's all right, okay. And then he starts talking about the Herodian and a time that he fought them and dealt with them. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, the Herodian are now in the Alpha Quadrant. Now, it's a very small thing, Gray, but I like the fact that they were a big deal in Voyager. They kicked Voyager's ass. They were one of the guys that could stand up to Voyager in the power. So the fact that they've now made it into the Alpha Quadrant in some shape or form, and they've been up against Picard, I like this. So maybe we might see them again in the future. That would be cool.
It's nice to know that when they do slip canon in, this is like a totally new canon. Nobody knew this. Where'd this story come from? Everybody starts going like, was that in TNG originally? You know?
No.
Excuse me, and it wasn't.
No.
So it was kind of cool to hear, like, okay.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that. We'll take that. You're not pissing all over canon. You're adding new canon, and it's done correctly, and no complaints. Gray gave this a really high score, which we'll get to the end. I think at least 1 point of this is because a certain person wasn't in this episode at all. Would that be correct, Gray?
Well, that is one reason.
Who's missing that you absolutely adore to bits?
No, Rafi. Woohoo! I couldn't. I was. I was in heaven.
No Worf either, man.
Well, no. I mean, I miss Worf. But he did have his time to shine, and he will later in the series. We know. But man, no Rafi was just great. I was just oh god, great. I don't have to sit there and worry about cutscenes to her. None of that garbage.
Every time it went to her in Metalis Prime, I went, oh, a little bit of me died inside.
It's kind of like here it is, right? The bar.
I'm up to it,
and then Rafi comes on. It goes, it starts going like this, and then
then Worf comes on, and it goes up again, but it can't quite get to the top again because Rafi's still there with Worf.
Because Rafi's still there.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's not on it. She is doing better in this season, but she's not on it. So I'm happy with that. I'll take that. I'm just, spoiler alert, they get out the nebula eventually, and I'm glad because we don't spend too long in that bloody nebula. But yeah, so story time with Picard's over. They jump back to the present again, and it's basically continuing on from the last episode where Riker was a bit nasty to Picard and was very over dramatic, which people thought he was maybe a changeling. I don't think he's a changeling because we'll get to that.
No,
I just think he had a bad moment. They've only got a few hours of power left. Typical. Riker's asking questions, can we do this, can we do that, and put all the power here, and blah, blah, blah. And basically everyone's like, listen, mate, we're screwed. Like, just stop asking us to do things. We're screwed. There's no power. I'm not Scotty. I can't do it. He could be like, we've got no power. I've got loads of power. I'm just not going to say anything. So he's like, listen, just stick it all into life support then. That makes sense. And shut everything down. Now, despite shutting everything down and people going to their safe zones, it seems like too much of that ship is small thing, tiny thing, Gray. Too many bits of that ship are still lit up like a bloody Christmas tree inside. So I'm like,
okay, but wait a minute now. There's a logic behind this one now. I'll correlate it to today.
Right.
Years ago, when we had incandescent light bulbs, right?
Yeah.
They would suck up a crap load of electricity, right? Then came out the fluorescents. Then came out the LEDs that take zero power practically. So you got to know that Starfleet has these things running on almost zero power.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about life support. The air that comes with it, the heating that comes with it. Yeah. That was, and it seemed to me, in too many areas of the ship. Maybe I'm wrong, but
maybe they had those yellow, energy efficient stickers stuck on the walls that tells you how well your electric goes.
Yeah, and they're like glow in the dark as well. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But anyway, it's a tiny thing that doesn't ruin an episode at all for me, and I may be wrong.
Yeah.
Riker actually does go and see Picard, and they're both trying to apologise to one another, which I thought this was how it was going to roll, and it did.
Yeah.
Riker was like, listen, just take my word for it. We don't have much time left. Go and speak to your son. Get to know him because, it's game over, man. So you have to do something quick. Right. And he does. He goes to speak to his son. Now, we're with Commander 7, or that's a little Trojan horse for later on. That's a key, that line there, Commander 7, instead of Commander Hansen. She's on the hunt for this changeling. And if anyone's going to go chasing a changeling, I want it to be one of 3 people, or one of 4 people. Her, Odo, Worf, or Shax. And she went after this changeling, so I knew eventually she'd end up finding our man. But it was a bit ground.
Our thing.
Or thing, yeah. But I mean, it's a man thing, isn't it? So he's still male, I guess. She finds the original transport officer, the changeling copied. He's dead. He's gone. He's dead, Jim. Ensign Foster is the guy's name. And one of the lockers just pops out dead. Been dead for a while, by the looks of it. 7 goes to Riker and tells him what's happened. And what I found surprising initially, although I got the idea for it, Riker was like, keep this quiet. Let's not... I got very vibes of Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country here. Was it 6 there with the boot? And it's like, let's keep it quiet and play into a trap, and let's try and find out the person that was causing the sabotage on the Klingon ship. This is what Riker's doing, essentially. Let's keep it quiet. Let's use this to advantage. I could reinstate you back in to command, but I won't do that so that people know that you're in the lay low and you can go and do your thing. So thought, smart thinking here, you know.
She can stay the lone wolf and figure out what's going on.
I do what's best. Like, if you still get those tubular, man, just assimilate his ass. Can you assimilate a changeling? Interesting. I don't
know. I don't know if the Borg's actually tried that. So there's some things I think
if they went to the Great Link, they would get. I think if they went to the Great Link would just bust up that cube, man. Like, I don't think they'd stand a chance.
That would be kind of interesting. But then again, it would be kind of interesting. What if the changelings got aboard of some cubes and just turned themselves into Borg looking things?
Yeah, they could do. Yeah.
Technically, they could do it.
Interesting. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? But yeah, so they keep it quiet. They keep it stum. Don't say nothing. And Gray mentions here, change your name to Sneaky 7. Like, is this a demotion or a promotion? Like,
No, just a joke.
Sneaky 7, the SS. That's another joke. So Picard goes out to the holodeck. Now he's wanting to speak to Jack, wanting to get to know him a little bit better. They go to the bar together, but it's a hollow representation. Now, I haven't stated this somewhere, and I meant to. Maybe I have. No, I have. I do it in the next bit. Thank God for that. He goes to the holodeck with Jack, and they're going to have a little drink. Picard asks him if he's ever been to that bar, actually, and he quickly says no, but with a question mark. And we will come back to that later because it's cool how they actually play this.
Yeah.
Turns out Picard Jr. doesn't like the same drink his old man drinks. He's not a wine buff. He likes cheap, nasty whiskey, and it happens to be Jameson's, which is Irish whiskey. And I'm sure if there's anyone that loves whiskey or Irish, will probably slate me for that. I think Jameson's is probably better than the credit they gave it. But it wasn't Scotch, so go and screw. And when I say Scotch, the Scotsman, I mean Scottish whiskey. I don't mean just any whiskey. I know you Americans call Scotch as just whiskey, which is a compliment, I think. But it's Irish stuff, which is second best. Anyway,
here it's mostly whiskey or bourbon. Bourbon is just another form of whiskey.
It's American whiskey. Bourbon is American whiskey for us. So nasty whiskey. He likes nasty on the rocks. The whiskey, that is. And then I never even noticed, I was blind to this. Gray noticed that Picard joined him for a drink as well. Like, I never ever saw, very rarely did I ever see Picard drinking on TNG, if at all. So, the odd time with Scotty, he done it once. And he's knocking back and he's like, who do you think gave that to Guinan? It was me, so. Nice little touch.
Yeah. You could see him. He was, and one of the reasons you can tell is not just the fact that I saw him pour it, but also, you don't put ice in wine. And they both had glasses with ice.
I do. Sorry.
You put ice in wine?
If it's not cold and I need to chill it quickly. If it's warm.
Oh, man.
But
I'm
if
not a
it's
wine drinker, but I do know that most people that drink wine go like, "What?
yeah,
You
but
chill it.
wine's
Don't
supposed to be
chill."
cold. But it takes time to chill. Anyway, we digress.
Well, yeah, but you water down the wine, see, so the taste changes
You just
completely.
got to let it get cold quickly, then drink it quickly. Key. Anyway, right.
Yeah,
So one thing I loved, and this would have taken it down half a point for me because Gray knows what I'm like, stickler for, and Gray's a bit like this as well. To be fair, the attention to detail here on one small thing. Soon as they go into the holodeck, I immediately go, "What? How much juice does that thing run on? Does your energy company know
yeah,
about this? Like, you're cutting down everything and energy
yep,
expense. So what the hell is going on?" And I'm typing this initially, and I went, right, let's give the scene a bit more time. And they do explain that holodeck has, because this was Terry, man. I'm telling you, even if he didn't write it, he made sure it was in there. One line of dialogue. Holodecks use a separate cell because in times of duress, like now, they have somewhere to go to enjoy and forget about the world while the shit hits the fan and they implode in a matter of hours, which I thought was genius. That makes
yeah.
so much sense.
Yeah, I thought the
So,
writing on that was excellent. That makes total sense. I mean, if you truly are in that desperate a situation where it looks like that's it and you're just going to blow up, what do you want to just stand around? Some
well,
people are definitely going to
why go
want
and
to
get
go to the
smashed?
holodeck and take a look at the sunset or whatever they're going to do,
Yeah.
to make them feel better. So that made total sense. So it runs on its own battery backup.
One
Something.
line of dialogue that other Star Trek series
Right.
before could have put in but didn't.
Right.
And the old guys would have not put that in. They would have just went into holodeck and not explained nothing.
Right.
And yeah, so thank you. Well done. Whoever actually wrote this episode, well done. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, there was a lovely comment. Now I knew it was coming. I didn't see this coming, Gray. Jack asked Picard the question. So let's address the elephant in the room. And I thought he was going to talk about father-son thing. And he went, the hair. But when does it go? You know. And Picard's like, what's that? He's like, oh, you're about 23, 24. He's like, enjoy it while you can. Because Picard lost it as a young man, and it's probably going to happen soon to him. You liked that line as well, didn't you, Gray?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was great. Just the way he said it, he already knew that, oh, God, I'm going to lose it pretty soon.
Maybe.
That was good.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The Jack mentions Metalis 4, and I note here, not another Terry planet, but, it's a system, as Gray states here, it is a system with more than one planet in it, so we just call it the Terry system. I'm just going to call it the Terry system. I mean, that's got a nice name to it. Why not?
You should have just called the planets like Terry 1, Terry 2, Terry 3.
And he can have it. He can have a whole bloody galaxy, man. He saved this whole thing from being a write-off, kind of.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm happy with that. Metalis 4. Now, as we kind of progress on slowly but surely, 7 actually goes to see Shaw, which I didn't see coming, I'll be honest with you, man. She's...
Yeah.
Those two are not really talking that well, and even by the end of the episode, they're still not best of mates, but he suggests, the thing about Shaw is he may be a dick, but he's a smart dick, and he doesn't get to where he is in his career without knowing a thing or two. He actually gives 7 some advice and suggests that changelings could actually be caught out by just asking them simple questions that only the original would know, the original person and the person speaking to them. Oh, that makes sense, because they can copy you, but they can't copy your memories. So
Right. They only know as much as they have access to.
Exactly, and that catches them out. Thank God they need every species needs a weakness, otherwise they're just too OP.
Sure.
So he suggests as well that look for the receptacle, the pot that they all reside in to rest in their liquid state to recover, the equivalent of sleeping, I guess, so that they can hold themselves in their solid form for longer. He hands over a pad to 7 with the receptacle on it, and bottom left there's a picture, lovely picture of Constable Odo, which I thought, did you notice that, Gray?
No, when you mentioned it, I had to go back and look because I didn't see that at first. Yeah,
I'm glad
some way they were able to get him in because they had mentioned him. not by name, but Worf mentioned him. We all knew who it was. Um, we had commented that we would like to have seen something somewhere of Odo, and they did. So that was kind of cool.
It
They
was.
got him in.
It was, and I would
Very
love a
nice.
starship to be named after him as well. The USS Odo sounds brilliant.
I'm sure they will
They
somewhere along the line.
They done it for the Nog. They done it for Ensign Nog, so definitely should do that. So yeah, he suggests go and find this receptacle because literally what they can do is there'll be a little bit of residue as there is with most DNA things. You can upload that to the computer, and then you've got a changeling detector scanner on your system. And I was like, well done, Shaw. You're still a dick, but you're a smart dick. I like that.
Yeah,
It
was a good idea.
That
I like
as well.
Yep, it was good. Another piece of good writing. I mean, we keep on finding so many little pieces of good writing in every episode that was just totally absent the first 2 seasons, and totally absent in a lot of New Trek.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see if they can keep whoever the band of writers are that they have in the writing room. They need to keep them, number one. They then in turn need to train the other writers that don't get it. And then maybe we'll continue to turn out, better stuff.
Well, who do we thank for that? Terry, because he's the showrunner. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, just on logic, I don't know this for a fact, on logic, the showrunner picks the writers or has a strong hand in picking the writers.
Yeah.
So he's picked guys that in fact, I know this for a fact because Terry mentioned this in an interview from his show 5 Monkeys, or was it 12 Monkeys? 12 Monkeys that wrote before.
Yeah.
The TV show, not the movie. He actually took some of these writers along with him, and some of them were probably Trekkies anyway. The other ones that are not Trekkies, he trusts their writing style. So, and sure. Terry, we trust. Well done, mate.
Also, credit also to a couple of the executive producers like Akiva Goldsmith. He's probably the main executive producer that basically got Kurtzman to shut up. And even though Kurtzman's name may still appear, he's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Just by name only.
Oh, yeah. And he's also been the brains behind Strange New Worlds too, so you see the parallels. And
his contract's running out, Kurtzman, so thank God for that. Just let Terry be the main guy for the whole thing, man. Yes, yeah, do it, because he is a guy we trust. Yeah, good shout, Gray there. Call out credit where credit's due. So yeah, we like the writing here. Cheeky little comment after, because I love this from Shaw. He's like, hey, 7, he starts by calling her 7 rather than Hanson. He's like, 7, like you'll make a great captain one day. You are a good person. I'm sorry for what's happened. Pause is what I would say. And then 7 goes, if you weren't a dick. And he kind of little wry kind of smile from it. And I was like, yes. Yeah. I like this scene too, Gray. I think you did also.
Yeah. Making an example of how you would question a changeling.
Yeah.
Putting themselves into the thing. It was funny.
Gray just puts agreed funny. After. That's all you need to say. Agreed. Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
So yeah, big fan of that. Now, Gray's got some input to this, and I'm glad because it does make a little bit of sense. Though this scene is bloody weird. It's like something out of a horror Star Wars type movie. It's weird. We catch up with Vadik, which is good because I want to see more of the bad guy, the big bad, or we presume the big bad. She goes up to this receptacle thing, and then she gets a knife out, and I'm thinking some very Klingon of you, and cuts herself. And then
I'm trying to think what does she want to bleed on? I don't get it.
Just going to make a mess, man. So she cuts herself, and then very similar ooze comes out of her hand, as does the changelings. That's why I thought initially changeling. I thought,
Definitely.
she's and then this ooze that comes out of her hand kind of forms up to be this little floating head thing that looks not Star Trek at all in the slightest. And he's he seems like he's the bigger bad, and he's basically saying, get into that nebula and chase after them, chase after the Titan. He's like, I can't, the portal weapon, for whatever reason, it would cause issues if they go in. They don't tell you why. She just can't go in there with a portal weapon.
Have you also noticed that her whole demeanor changes? She goes from the crazy, bad, whacked out, whatever, to like a subservient dog, because she's going like, oh, yeah. So she's really
This is the
you
bigger
know,
bad, clearly, I think, at this
right.
stage, Gray.
And then I think the part where the bigger bad goes like, no, you have to go after him because you are all expendable, even you. And she's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Okay. So literally, they detach. I mean, you don't see it happening. I always thought the portal weapon is where the deflector is, but it comes from somewhere in the ship. It looks like a little module thing, which it
Yeah.
probably is. It's probably the engine because the points come out of the end of the talons, and the portal engine just kind of flies away, and then the Shrike comes round, goes back into the nebula. Now, Gray doesn't think this is a changeling; it's someone riding along. If that's the case, why cut? Like, I'm really confused. It's such a weird scene,
Okay.
Gray.
Well, like I was saying, I don't think Vatic is the changeling because she wouldn't have to cut
I
her
hope not.
arm.
It's too
Well,
obvious, man.
right. So what I think could be happening, or what is happening, is somehow a piece of the big bad, a little piece of the big bad, was grafted onto Vatic, whatever she is, who doesn't really have a hand. Either they cut it off or whatever happened.
Uh-huh.
So this little piece of the big bad is now the hand, so that he can actually kind of ride with her, ride along, and then he can then contact him directly with her through the device because there was some kind of device when she cut her hand off. It looked like it was going on to some type of communication, something or other. I don't know. So I really think that the bad guy is riding along in as part of him is with her,
How
and
the
that's why he
communication? Like, how did they communicate? Like, what?
because
So
I think like
weird.
anything else, they're probably communicating through the Great Link via subspace in some manner or form.
Uh,
I mean, obviously, because the other changelings have to
no,
connect with the big boss at some point here
it's
and there.
not via the Great Link because this is a rogue faction. They were kicked out of the Great Link, so they're
That's true.
not.
That's
They're
true.
somewhere together. And a mini
So
link,
they
a tiny link, a wee link. We'll call it a wee link now, not a Great Link.
or they could maybe they got together and somehow were able to form their, like
Their
you
own
said,
version.
their own version,
Yeah, a
right?
wee
Of
link.
some, because you'd have to. You can't just you got to be able to tell your agents out there like
Yeah.
kind of what to do sometimes.
Do you not
So
think this was a weird scene though? I thought it was weird, man.
well,
Not
at
very
first I
Star
thought it was
Trekky.
weird, but then when I saw what happened and how she connected to the big bad, then I said, okay, now I get it. You know, it makes sense to me, and I think it's actually pretty brilliant because it is one way where the big bad can keep close tabs on what's going on.
They might explain it more. Like, we might find out the next episode or two more what's going on, how this works, and that would help, certainly from my
Right.
point of view. But yeah, weird scene, but not bring it down really, just confuse me. Seven's casually walking, and I thought this was a tiny bit of a issue, silly thing. Seven's walking along casually with the receptacle for the pot for this changeling instead of actually having it hidden or locked up or a security officer with it or something. She's casually walking along. Two officers walk past her. One of them clocks it and immediately just pulls out his phaser, shoots the person he's walking with, turns around, vaporizes the bloody the pot right out of Seven's hand, and then there's a kind of shoot 'em up between the two, but he kind of runs after Seven, and this noise they make when they're about to die, very alien, not what I'm used to from changelings at all.
Yeah,
But
like like a scream or something.
yeah, but it's that kind
Yeah.
of alien kind of scream. It's not it's horrifying. She just blasts him several times because the changelings take, as we see at one point, you need a direct phaser shot right at the middle on highest setting to kind of kill them. And then he turns into this goo stuff, his usual form, residue, as she calls it. I like that.
Yeah, residue.
Residue, yeah. Sounds like something you eat. And then it goes through the bulkheads and disappears. Like, you're not going to find that anytime soon. So, liked that little scene, little shoot 'em up there, but she was a bit too reckless with the pot. Like, hey, look what I got under my arm, instead of locked up officer beside her.
I mean, there could have been a reason for that. I mean, remember the whole crew has been gathering in common areas,
And she doesn't trust anyone. She's not allowed to trust anyone either. So
right, right. So she kind I can go along with that one. The only thing, if you really want to nitpick a little,
probably do.
was when the changing fired on her and hit the pot. She could have just vaporized her totally with the pot.
Yeah, maybe he's just
Yeah.
such a good, accurate shot.
Right. So, but I'm not looking at it as
Of
really
course,
drawing
of
any.
course.
You know,
I like
you
that
could have also
picking.
you could have also said that it could have been a lucky shot. He might have been aiming for her chest, and she just happened to turn.
You can't miss that, mate. Trust me.
you know, and it hit the pot. So it's
The,
not
the,
a big deal.
the
It's just a
you
little
missed
nitpick.
that comment, I think, completely, didn't you?
Yeah, probably.
Aiming for her chest. I went, no, you're not missing that. It's Jerry Ryan. You're
No,
not missing that,
no,
mate.
that's true.
We love Jerry Ryan. She's still good in her 50s, my man. Yeah, so back again to the 10 forward bar. Very the hollow representation. It was still in the present time. Picard's telling he's telling Jack about Jack Crusher, his friend, and Beverly's original husband. They used to be pals at Starfleet back in the day. He's telling him a story about how they escaped a shuttlecraft incident by working together. The reason they were doing this, and I wasn't a massive fan of this, it's like Picard was basically, and Jack were basically doing this so they could go and get laid. These chicks were basically giving them an invite to come over, and that's what Jack says at one point. He's like, "We're trying to get laid," and he said, "With an invite." I was like, "Oh my," So it was funny. I put up with it, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, but Gray was okay with this because
I was totally okay with it. First of all, he's not the one who said he was going to get laid. It was
that's true.
Jack that
But he
said
didn't
it.
deny
Number
it.
one.
He didn't deny it.
No, true, but Picard is too classy to go like, yeah, I went down to the planet to get laid. He just, Jack said it, of course, because being younger, he said it because he was being blunt.
Yeah.
And Picard goes, we had an invite. I mean, come on. So what do we turn down an invite? We're going. And I figured, look, they're young cadets and officers at the time, and of course they're going to do a goofy thing once in a while. And this was it.
And he also says an F-bomb as well, Picard, just after, doesn't he? When he's like, stuck in there for how many effing hours. And I was like, whoa, what? Picard does not swear. I wasn't a massive fan of that as well. Again, Gray didn't mind too much because A, he's retired, and B, they're not on any kind of shift. So
they're not on duty. They're being casual. And that's another reason that I didn't really mention in the notes was the fact that, remember, when Next Generation was on many, many years ago, okay, it was on general, it was syndicated TV, yes, and they couldn't get away with saying any of these words, period.
Before 9 or something, wasn't it?
And I guarantee you, if they had no restriction, they would have used a swear word here or there, depending.
I think so.
In the right points, the right places. But here, they don't have to worry about that. So again, it's just the same as, you and I are not going to start, yelling a lot of explicatives right now. But if you and I are casual, we do. And that's what they were doing. They're just being casual, and they go,
Only when it comes to James Gunn, then we actually start cursing and swearing because
that's different.
That's tune in for Gray's Green Room, and you might get a rant. We're recording that next week, so But yeah, so Picard asked Jack if he's heard the story before, like stop me if you've heard the story before, kind of thing. But before Jack could reply, because he's about to, Shaw walks in. Again, this is connected to that first thing where, have you ever been to 10 forward bar, Picard says to Jack, and he's not getting a chance. He's either given too quick an answer or he's not responding at all. I like that. It does come to a head, this one, actually. Shaw walks in, and here's where things get interesting. So, this was a very harsh moment, but done beautifully, done right. Shaw says to Jack, has your old man discussed how we've met? And there's a quick kind of look from Picard to be like, oh, haven't met, that kind of expression. And he's like, I met him. I was a grease monkey, an engineer back in the day. And basically, long story short, it was during the Battle of Wolf 359. I'm glad that's brought up because, it's a significant moment in Star Trek, Starfleet history. So he basically tells, he's very bitter at this stage. I don't know if he's been on the Sherbets or whatever, but
actually, he did say when he came into the bar that he said that they've been pretty free giving of the meds I'm on.
Oh yeah. He said that. Yeah, but he's like your mum was
kind of like
was basically smashing old meds in it. Yeah, that's a good shout, Gray. Actually, yeah. So he's basically in the mood where he's not holding back at all because he's feeling pretty chilled with all the meds. But yeah, he basically rips into Picard and tells a story of there was 10 people that were able to survive at the end on the last shuttle pod, shuttlecraft that was leaving, and his lieutenant commander told him to get in, and he feels a bit guilty because he's one of 10 people that survived. But why me? Why not my lieutenant commander? Why no one else? And he's like, basically, you are in a position where you're so bad as Locutus of Borg. You're so bad. The real Borg, not. I like this little touch that he's like, not that stuff that happened before, basically Picard season 2, but the real Borg are still out there, and I believe they are actually. And you're so bad they gave you a name. I'm like, oh, Locutus of Borg, you know. And then Jack's trying to say, listen, hold back, you know, stop. And he's like, no, fine. Picard's like, I own up to what's happened before. But you could just see Picard absolutely distraught. I thought he was going to start crying, man. I was feeling horrendous for him at all. Now, you don't see any flashbacks, Gray. This is an important thing to mention. I thought they would do that, but that'd be too expensive. I get it. But you hear little subtle audio cues of red alert and screaming and stuff as Josh talking about this. And it's very surreal.
You also hear very faintly, you actually hear Picard as Locutus.
I missed that part. That's smart.
He goes, I am Locutus, a Borg.
That is
right
smart.
There.
How did you feel about that scene, Gray? I was both horrified and loved it, and I felt so sorry for Picard, but it was done well.
I thought it was a great scene. I thought it was well acted. It was tense. I don't think it was necessary.
The reason why
I'm not holding it against him or anything. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But and this is just a little thing with me. They've mentioned Wolf 359 multiple times.
Yeah, maybe done too much.
Okay. Yeah. And the one that was probably the most poignant was the one where Picard had his discussion with Sisko. And Sisko was really not happy with Wolf 39, and they had a little tense talk between the two. That's pretty much all you need to know right there, because that was such a great scene between the two of them, way back on the Deep Space Nine first episode, actually, I think. So you knew. I was like, oh wow, that's tense, and stuff like that. And so to me, that was the scene, the one that really hit home right there. So this to me was kind of like, okay, I get it. It was a good scene, not taking anything away from it. Well acted, well written, but I don't think it was really necessary at all.
Fair enough. I understand your logic for that as well, actually. One thing we forgot to mention, actually, see this whole time he's ripping into Picard, Shaw. The scene, at the beginning of that scene, or was it scene before, a bunch of younger officers come in and ask if they can join. And Picard says, yeah, please come in, the more the merrier. And you kind of forget about them because they're in the back. It's a kind of dark, kind of dingy bar, and you're like, forget about them. They just fall away into the background. And then after Picard walks out, after getting grilled like that, Shaw turns around and he's kind of like, because he's very emotional as well. He's like, he kind of apologizes for behavior. He says, he's basically saying, I wasn't always a dick. But, things have shaped him to be the man he is today, and those experiences have made him kind of like that. So,
well, I think the people that were in the bar, they obviously know Starfleet history, so they know what happened. It's not like they're stupid. So Shaw did more to embarrass himself, actually. And there was a part in the scene where he goes, he was saying something like, I was once charming, or take the word charming and replace it with asshole. So he was calling himself an a-hole.
Yeah.
Basically, as he realized he went too far.
Yeah,
and stuff.
That's your own fault. I am liking the Shaw character. The guy that plays him is doing a bang up job, man. He really is. I didn't know this guy who played him, but I don't really care. He was brilliant. So
yeah. I personally, I would love. He's so good. And again, this is getting a little ahead of myself, maybe, but he's so good. I could see him in a show. I mean, he's good.
Be the captain of a new Enterprise. The Enterprise.
Well, not necessarily an Enterprise, but it would.
When you say you're going too far there, Trevor.
I'm not going to go that far, right? Shaw's not going to be Enterprise. Sorry,
you're not Enterprise material, mate.
You got to work your way up a little more than that. But I could see him coming back and doing something. In other words, if you're going to bring back a character from this show, this season, I would bring back Shaw. I wouldn't bring back Raffi.
No,
If
yeah,
I'm making
agreed,
my
agreed.
now you see my point, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would bring back him way faster than I would ever bring back Raffi.
Agreed, man. Agreed. 100%. So moving on, as Gray and I both knew, I mean, Gray called it initially, but I kind of agreed with him. It
It
seems
was
this
obvious.
nebula is not a nebula. Of course, it's not. It is some kind of life form after all, because Beverly's coming to the conclusion that the burst of waves, which we were calling, or I was calling their Gasmatron wave, because it seemed to like make them all buzz and enter on the bridge, like they were
Well,
all having
you
big.
actually weren't far from being wrong, technically.
Well, I think about it,
mean,
yeah. They're basically contraction waves that this life form is about to give birth, kind of, and they are waves of energy coming out. So there's something there. I mean, it's smart writing, um, and I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming with this idea. It made sense. Jack has a great idea to funnel the waves as a power source and direct them directly into the warp nacelles. The idea being that the warp nacelles, get into the warp nacelles, and that'll travel down into the core itself and recharge everything so they can get the hell out of there. And Jack sums up his point because he's British by going, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Now, Gray likes this saying, I know, and so do I. So we're fans of that scene, weren't we, Gray?
I mean, just so you know, since I've gotten to know Trevor here and a couple other people, in the UK and stuff, now I understand what the expressions mean. Whereas if I didn't, I wouldn't know what the hell he was talking about. But now that he said it, since I've been hung around you guys often enough, I was cracking up. I thought that was great.
Yeah, Fanny used to be a name, especially in Scotland back in the day. It used to be
Sure.
actually a name. And without getting into too many details, because it's a PG show, and I know in America it means your backside. It's a lady's front bum in the UK, so it means something completely different to us. But it is a name, so
Sure.
not used anymore. You would never call your kid that anymore. Anyway,
Yeah.
right. So that was a nice chuckle. See, this is when Marvel could learn a thing or two from Star Trek, Gray. Insert humour at the right times and not make it a bloody comedy. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Right.
So they're going to ride this wave like a sail, if you like. They have to be matching the speed of the wave so it can carry them out. It won't just pick them up and take them along. Again, smart writing. So put all your energy reserves into the thrusters to ride the wave. And first of all, I'm thinking...
Like a surfboard.
Yeah, like a surfboard. Nitpicking, last I checked, thrusters use gas and not actual energy, as in plasma or electricity or anything. So they should have plenty of that. But again, nitpicking, Star Trek, maybe this is different kind of thrusters that actually use energy. But then are they not impulse engines? Yeah, small thing. So
yeah, it's just a little thing.
Just a small thing. But it makes sense. Channel all this power that's left into the thrusters. But Riker isn't up for the plan, Gray. As being the good captain he is, he's like, regulations, blah, blah, blah. And then they're basically, Picard's like, come on, Picard and Beverly have this little speech with him, which I like, Gray. I want your input in this as well. They're basically saying, listen, when we work together like we've done in the past, we can get out of sticky situations. We've done it before. We can do it again. It's all about trusting the guys around you. I love this writing, this scene here. Mm-hmm. It just felt very TNG, didn't it, Gray?
Oh, to me, it meant a lot because aside from the original series, because I go all the way back to the original, Next Generation was my next step from the original to the next. Because when I was younger, once the original series ended and the movies were, pretty much ending, I thought that's it. That there's going to be no more Star Trek. That's the end of that. Love it for what it was, and that's it. So when I heard that they were going to do Next Generation, I got bananas about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. They're really going to do this. So TNG to me is very important, second only to TOS. Yeah. So when I started seeing the writing that they were doing and the care that they put into the writing, all of it started making sense. You started getting that really feel good vibe going on that you used to feel with the whole crew of TNG. And they really made an important point, as you stated, that you work as a team because everybody in your team are experts. And so when you work as a team, you may be able to get yourself out of anything. Now they didn't go so far to say, oh yeah, we're a team and this is going to automatically work. No, they didn't say that. They just said that, look, if we're going to go out we're going to go out
And
in
a
in a
bang.
bang, and
Yeah.
we're going to try to do everything we freaking can to exploit what we got. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then nice seeing you.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that, because with the old writing probably would have went, we can do this, no problem. And then they just do it. They have no explanation to it, right?
Yeah.
But this was good writing, because it says, look, we may all die. There's lots of reasons why we could die from this, but damn it, we're gonna give it a shot, and we're gonna do the best we can.
Gonna
And
give
that was just
yeah.
absolutely great.
Gonna
That
give it
was
all she's
absolutely
got,
great.
Captain.
And the good thing is Riker really is listening to this, and then he's starting to get the, again, it's making an impression on him to go, you're right, we were a team. I forgot that, for a moment,
Yeah.
and stuff. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
when, and then he starts getting into it and going like, okay,
Yeah.
so we could do this or we could do that, and like, okay,
Yeah,
cool,
he adds
just made it
suggestions
better.
to it. That's a good point, actually. He actually
Right.
adds in how we can improve it. He gets right into the plan. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep.
That's a good point. Riker actually leads into when they confirm the plan. He actually gives a little nice, inspiring speech to the crew. I always wondered how
Yeah.
an all hands
Yeah.
works. Where are these microphones that pick them up that are so good that get to the whole ship? I mean, it's the future. It's Star Trek. They're probably phenomenal. I could do with one of them
Well,
right now. for
actually,
this.
to be honest with you, I don't know about. I'm assuming it's the same with your
Maybe it's
Navy,
combat.
but over here, the U.S. Navy, and I'm sure in the UK Navy, etc., an all hands means that it's a button you press that literally lights up every freaking speaker anywhere on the freaking ship. Period.
Yeah.
There is no way to escape it, even in the bathroom. Okay, so I'm serious. So
You're
that,
in with the paper, just trying to enjoy your number two, and oh, come on, Captain.
but of course, the amount of times that they actually use that are very few and far between, depending
Yeah.
on the situation. But
I
that's
like
what
it.
it's meant for. Once you hit that button,
No going
there
back,
is no way you can stop that transmission. You are going to hear it.
one
Period.
way or another. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
nice little speech from Riker. He's basically saying, "Listen, I know I haven't been here long, and you don't know me that well, but as any good captain would do, I know a little bit about you guys as well, because he's obviously tried to read up a little bit about the guys that are on the ship, which is smart. I like that. It's a bonding moment with these guys. They all respect and respond to Riker really well throughout this series so far, actually, on Titan. And then we're
Well,
thinking, game on.
let's remember something now. Even though the crew and Riker, and again, good writing. Riker came out and didn't want to just say, "I'm Riker, I'm a legend," that kind of thing. He cared about them. He cared about their feelings and stuff. But at the same time, those people know that he's a legend. So when he opens his mouth, they're going to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless. But he was being a bigger man, and and the way that he talked, and that made total sense. So it was an excellent written speech, and he obviously delivered it well.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It was another great. It was another great moment, because at this point in the episode, when you're seeing this stuff happening now back to back to back, you basically are riveted to the screen, and you're not moving.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another thing, the sign of a good episode. If you can actually just sit there and just go, and you're not doing anything. You're just kind of like,
And
what? You got it.
go like what, Gray?
Yeah.
Flipped.
But,
I'm not going to do that.
but you know what I mean. You're
Yeah.
totally riveted.
That was me. That was me.
Oh, that was me too. And you don't, for those few seconds that those things happen, those moments, you don't even know, in a sense, and you know what I mean by this. You don't even know where you are. You're just in the episode. Everything around you doesn't matter for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you actually accomplished what you set out to do in your writing.
Very hard to do. Not many people do it, actually. So well done, Terry and his writers. So Picard actually at this point goes to Shaw for help. And he's like, I'm the last person you maybe want to see. He's like, but, you're the only guy that knows these old nacelles because they're one of the original parts of the ship. You're the only one that knows them, being a grease monkey, but, despite being a dipshit from Chicago, because that's what he said originally when he was talking to Picard in the Locutus of War comment, that he was a grease monkey, he was a dipshit from Chicago. But then Picard's basically like, I would like your help despite being a dipshit from Chicago. To which Shaw pauses for a moment and goes, nice. Nice comeback. And I
Yeah,
like that. I was
nice
like,
cover.
he's
Yeah.
respecting that, man. You know, I was like, Picard, well done, mate. That hit home nicely, didn't it, Gray?
It's another thing that's just a small little thing, but it's great.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. But
gets the message across.
we both enjoyed that thoroughly. But that got the message across. There was a little bit of mutual respect formed between them at this moment there, just a little bit. And because Shaw is an old grease monkey, and the because the thing is the Titan is the A, because it's an A, it's a refit, and the nacelles are at least
Older
partially the
technology.
same as they're older technology, so they've been maybe added to, but the core of them is still the same. And Shaw, because they're 20 years old, he knows how they work. So they get him involved. He's a guy that knows how to open the vents in the side so they can suck everything in. Why the bizarre collector's not been used, I don't know. Let's assume that no power they
Well,
couldn't.
no, I think this whole thing was pretty genius in the writing because they've never ever done that before. Doesn't mean that you couldn't do it, but there was never a reason to do it. And if you remember, they said that you can't do it unless you really know your way around it.
Yeah.
So it was almost like we always say, it was almost like a Scotty moment. He's the only guy because he understands it, how to get around it. Because you're not supposed to get around it. You're not. You don't
What
mess
about
with
the
it.
bizarre collectors? Is that not what's supposed to bring gases into the ship? That's
The
what I
what
thought.
collectors?
What are the red bits at the end? Bizarre collectors called? The red bits that suck in the gas. Star Trek Insurrection was a perfect
Oh, right.
example.
Okay, I remember you saying.
Riker sucks everything in when they use the joystick, and he's like, "I'm going to ram it down their throats." They can bring in stuff that way, but then
Yeah.
I'm not nitpicking. I'm just asked the question. Maybe
Yeah, I think that
it can only bring in gases, whereas this isn't
right.
a gas. This is energy, so it has to go straight into the nacelles. I think, So
I mean, basically, they were showing you that this is something that you really shouldn't do.
oh no, yeah.
You just shouldn't do it because you're going to blow yourself up. So this is something that you just do not do. Period. No one's ever done it. You don't do it.
Yeah.
But
But
they were forward thinking, and because again, good for Shaw that he realized that if it can be done, he's the only one that can do it because he knows how to jury rig it, and that's what he did.
yeah.
So
Well,
it
we
was
see
it
it.
was good. It was perfect. I like the fact that they were able to bring Shaw back in to do something that was vitally important.
Indeed.
Which showed that regardless of some of his views, he's there for the team, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
we keep talking about it. Yep.
So at this stage, Riker, I like this little touching moment here. Riker actually gives Picard the chair, as he says, the captain's chair. He says, "You know how to fly blind after your story about Jack Crusher before, so it makes sense that you have the chair." And he looks at him and he goes, "Okay," takes the chair. And there's little TNG kind of music in the background
Yeah.
as he takes it. And I'm thinking, nice. I like this little moment. And then he starts, right, okay, instructions, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, good luck, everyone, we can do this, And then the traditional pause and then engage
Engage.
the proper way. I was like, yes, come on, my man. Love. There you go. Great. What did it give you?
Trek goosebumps.
Right, Goosebumps. They are different from normal Goosebumps. They are
Right.
a massive step up from your normal Goosebumps.
It was just like I was like cheering the screen when he did that. I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, do it."
No,
It was great.
he's not kidding. Gray probably genuinely did do that, to be fair.
Oh, I was doing that, no doubt.
How
And I
American
was
of
just
you.
like, I was just loving the moment, just like. And when I finished the episode, I went back on that one especially. A couple other little scenes, but that one especially, I went back to rewatch that a couple times.
I usually rewatch them twice because I do a lot of the notes.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah, I have to.
um, but yeah. So I liked that little moment. We then see Shaw and Seven down in engineering. You only see a tiny bit of engineering. It's a shame. I know. I get it, it's expensive. I wanted to see the warp core, everything. We haven't seen
Yeah.
that in Star Trek for a while properly. So,
Yep.
but it's okay. I'll forgive them this time. We see this console they're working on. They're fiddling about. Shaw's fiddling about with things. And Seven steps away for a moment to check that the work he's done is actually working. He's like, go away and check something. Right, okay. And then the moment she leaves, Sidney LaForge walks in and is like, I'm here to help. And I was like, I smell a changeling. And then so does Shaw. He's like, okay. Yeah, you can pass me the
He wasn't
spanner.
sure.
But what you
But
do
and I
here?
remember if you remember earlier in the scene, Shaw was the one that told Seven, like if you were the changeling, where would you go? And she said, you would come right here to where we are.
Yeah, they did say that at the start
He
of that
did
scene.
say
Yeah,
that. So they're both kind of like, okay, so we have to be on our guard a little.
yeah.
And sure enough, you see LaForge come in, and as soon as she walked in, I already knew there's no
Oh
peace.
yeah. I mean, but
There's
saying
no
that,
peace.
if you're
Which is
dumb,
perfect.
if you're dumb in the slightest, you might get it because she does walk in and be like, "Listen, I was told to come down and help." You know, my dad's the engineering genius. You know, LaForge,
Right.
hello. You know, I know a thing or two, and she probably does. So it does make sense. But this, you're talking to the captain. You talk to Seven here, who stepped away for a moment, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, like pass the spanner down." And she's asking a question. She's like, "If you get one of the nacelles open, you can power the ship, but you can't go to warp." And he's like, "Yeah." I think I slightly disagree with that comment. I've seen ships go to warp with one nacelle, but I'm not going to nitpick this time. And he's like, "Yeah, that's true." She grabs the spanner, and I think as she's about to probably whack him, the phaser just comes to her head. Seven step back in, and she's like, "Yeah, I smell a changeling. I smell changeling all over you." Um, and she
I,
does
th-
say
I also think to back up for a second. I think the whole scene where Shaw was going like, yeah, I think he was just saying
he's
almost
playing
anything
along. He's playing along, yeah.
because yeah, he already knew.
Yeah.
You remember when he had that tool in his hand, whatever the heck that
He
tool
puts it in
was?
his mouth, yeah.
He was gripping it like this though. At one point, I'm going like, oh, he's gonna stab him. I
Yeah,
was waiting to see him just go
you don't
or
stand a
something.
chance. Seven makes a good point,
Mm.
though. She does say to Sydney, she's like, "We purposely said we don't want anyone to come down," and she's like, "Oh, come on! I know how to help him.
Yeah,
I know how to
but
fix
it's me.
things. It's me.
Yeah,
It's
but it's
Sydney,
me.
you know." And she's like, it's me, Commander," and she went, "Commander, what?" And I was thinking, say, you know, like Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, say my name, and she, you know, she goes, "Commander Seven," and then boom, evaporated on the spot.
Oh
Well, not
wait,
evaporated.
she said
Sorry,
Commander Hansen. She said
Commander
Commander
Hansen.
Hansen.
Sorry, yes, thank you for picking me up in that grey. Yeah,
Yep.
Commander
And
Hansen,
then boom.
and she's never called her that. Those two have a close relationship where she calls her by her actual name, which is Seven, not her human name. So there's that respect. So that's why she gets killed, not vaporized, but just killed. I like that. Jaw saw it coming, but still nice. He's probably got no teeth left
Yep.
after gripping onto that so bloody tightly. That was a nice little scene, and they managed to get both of the cell covers
Mhm.
open just in time. Literally.
I actually like that CGI scene. It was kind of neat. You see him just kind of like, psh, and they go, psh, they
Like
open up like
very
that.
mechanical,
That's
Grey,
cool.
wasn't it? Nothing
Yeah.
like the future of like Discovery seasons 4 and 5 kind of thing. Very, very mechanical. Now Jack has a more of a part to play in this, which I like because I didn't want to be like a third testicle. You know, I just wanted him to have something productive to do, and he did. Picard's like, "Listen, Jack, I need you asteroid spotted because the sensors are down." You know, so he's using some kind of rudimentary, basic scanning system that they've got to keep
Yeah,
an eye
almost
out.
like a old style sonar or radar.
Kind of like, yeah, not the fancy
Yeah,
sensors we're used to.
right.
Yeah, exactly,
Backup systems that you would almost never use, but in this case,
exactly.
that's
And
all you got.
and he is doing a cracking job of it. At one point, he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, hold, wait in that 4 seconds, trust me." And you know, there's some close shaves where the Titans like narrowly just missing some asteroids, but they get out of it okay. Just as they're about to escape again, the bloody Shrike every single time they try and leave.
You knew that
Cuts
was
them off.
coming.
Oh, yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. They can see the opening in the distance. The Shrike's sitting there all menacing. And then Riker, this is very reminiscent of Star Trek Insurrection, where let's say uses the gas and ignites it into the sonar's face. He does something similar here. He's like, "See that asteroid? Lock onto it and send it to these coordinates, right?" Tractors this asteroid, cuts it at the right time by, you know, and then hitting the thrusters at the right angle so that this asteroid goes underneath them and then goes bang, smack into the Shrike. And I could almost see him going, "How you like them apples?" Because that was revenge, Grey, from throwing the Elios at the Titan at the
into
very
the
start.
Titan.
I love that scene. I'm presuming you did as well.
And the other thing, if in case people are wondering, too, like how much force can the asteroid have? Well, remember,
Just say
they're going
foreskin.
forward. They're going forward at a heavy momentum,
Oh
right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
Titan is really moving. So grabbing the asteroid and then just putting it in the path
It's some
means the asteroid is
calculations.
basically right. It's basically going as fast as the Titan is moving forward.
Yeah,
So it's not much. It's just there, just sit there and just nudge it in the way.
yeah,
And I'll tell you, that was a big damn asteroid. I think it was about 2/3 the size of the ship
yeah.
of the Shrike. And I love you just see it go bam, and it's almost like bouncing off, and the thing goes.
And bear in
Like,
mind,
uh-oh.
it's like when the Helios hit the Titan. Shields are not designed for kinetic impact. They
Right.
are designed for energy absorption. So while it helps somewhat, as in they don't break into pieces, the energy has to go somewhere, and it does go into the ship, and it blows a bunch of systems. The Shrike's not quite dead in the water, but it's not warping away for at least an hour. It's always the bloody hour. It's not warping away for an hour, and they have to hang about for a bit. It's
Yeah.
banged up.
Yeah.
It's banged
They're
up.
messed up. Yeah.
They're messed up. And then Beverly says, I'll give you this line. What does Beverly say, Gray? I love this.
Beverly says, "What did you?" Says, "Will, did you just throw an asteroid?" And then Riker just comes out, "Goddamn right, I did."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
Reminiscent of Star Trek Insurrection, where the officer asks what your intentions are. Are your intentions to throw it down the sonar's throat? And basically, Riker's like, yeah, I'm going to ram it down their throats. And when he pulls it off, the officer turns round and almost that look in her face, like, I want you right now. Like she's like, I'm hugely turned on and impressed by what Riker just pulled off. We'll call that the Riker maneuver 2.0. Not 1.0. So yeah, I love that. Great little scene, so good. Why didn't he just launch a bunch of bloody torpedoes? They must have assumed that the portal weapon was still there, Gray. Anything you
Probably,
throw kinetic.
right. But the other thing is, if they threw photons on it, they know well enough that again, because they're going to energy absorb, the shields may not have done enough.
Yeah.
So throwing something this massive is going to knock them out of commission, at least for whatever short time. They only needed a few seconds,
Yeah.
and they did, and they were able to warp away.
Yep.
Which is another great scene. You see it finally getting its power, and
Oh,
gone.
yeah. You do. We can't miss that out. Just before the boost away though, you do see all these little space babies getting born from the mother, and I am 95% sure it's the same species as encountered at Farpoint Station, Gray. You agree with that?
It did look like that.
Yeah, very much like that, but with better CGI, understandably.
Mhm.
And I knew Terry would do that because you're pulling from good Star Trek, and that's what he likes to do. That's all right. You're borrowing. You're not overusing something. So
Yeah.
I'm
It's
glad
something
you
that
done it.
went before.
Yeah,
And like I mentioned in the notes that they actually mentioned Encounter at Farpoint earlier in the episode.
yeah, that's true.
It
That's
was
very
actually
true.
Picard that mentioned it. When Beverly started talking about this, he's going like, we experienced that before at Farpoint.
Yeah,
Mm,
this is true. This is true.
all good.
So you see it get enough power to then just zoom out of there and warp out. It's got its full power back more or less, which is nice to see. But you see it going along, and you do see a big mass. I think this is where the Helios must have hit it. A massive dent. In fact, it's maybe
Oh
the
yeah.
hole in the front, man. It just was
Yeah, it
busted
definitely
up.
ruptured the
hull.
ruptured it for sure. You see it.
100%. Yeah, it's bashed up for good. It's still fighting shape, but it's bashed up.
Mm.
Now we come into this bit's come to a conclusion. We go back again to 5 years, and it's the end of the story time that Picard was telling the young officers. And then someone in the background pipes up a question. It's his son, Jack Crusher. Bear in mind, this is 5 years prior. And he's asking Picard, like, Admiral Picard, did you Starfleet your whole life? Did you not have any other adventures outside, like personal stuff, family? Did you have family or that kind of thing? And he's looking very inquisitive and sad at this time, Jack. And Picard said, he didn't have a clue who he was. He looks around and went, Starfleet's the only family I've ever needed, young man. And then you just see Crusher look distraught. And then you see all the officers are like, kind of give that a clap and a nod of approval. And there you go. The whole time, we've touched on this 2-3 times throughout this review. Earlier on, Jack was there, but he tried to answer the question a couple of times and quite couldn't. He knew who he was 5 years ago, I think. So
Yeah.
with Beverly's like, he didn't want anything to do with you, and Picard's like, why? And Jack doesn't get Picard the answer to this, Gray. But now
No, I think
because
he kind of wanted to.
he
but
asked that
wasn't
question
the right
5 years
time.
ago, and
Yeah.
he saw that he's not interested in family, so I don't want anything to do with him. That makes sense now. Again, good
Yeah.
writing. The way they done that, brilliant. So it is pretty
Everything
sad.
everything was linked together, and then you saw towards the end of the episode, you obviously see Picard looking at Jack in a different way, and then all of a sudden it's starting to click,
Yes.
and he's going like, oh, holy crap, that was him
Yes.
back then 5 years ago. Oh man, and then it all starts going click, 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 making sense.
Yep.
To Picard. So that was cool.
It kind of something triggers in his memory. He's like, oh shit, what have I done or not done? And then pretty much at the end of the episode, Riker has a little nice moment on a video call with his Mrs. Deanna, and I hope we get to see her in person at one point. Come on.
We will.
And he's basically, saying something about the galaxy's a big, beautiful place. We saw something amazing today, blah, blah, blah. And then Deanna goes, that is the most beautiful thing I've heard you say in a long time. And he goes, I know. Because he's been so closed off since his son died, and he's been so down. And he's like, I need to start living. I need to live for my son. I need to live for you. And he apologizes and he says, that's on me. I'll fix that. And I'm thinking, good. Like, you're chilled out now, Riker, because your marriage is in trouble. You potentially are being a crap father to your daughter, and you're being a crap best friend to Picard. So he is,
but only
on
briefly.
the mend. Only briefly. They fixed that, and that's good. Hey, they're allowed to have a ding dong, those two, and Picard and Riker as well. They're allowed to, as long as it's not for too long and they give context and meaning to it, and they did. So yeah, that's on the mend, which is good. Jack at this bit here, the very, very end scene is Jack at the mirror, give himself a wash, and he has some kind of visions in the background. And he hears a voice, a woman saying, find me, find me. It sounds like Varric, but I'm not sure. What was your take of that, Gray? What?
I don't know who that was. I don't know about Vatic, but the weird thing I noticed, though, is that this psychedelic scene or whatever he's experiencing, you see these red branches going everywhere.
Yeah, like a tree
Notice
or
that.
something, yeah.
Right. Now, I also noticed that when the scene, I don't know if it was this episode or maybe it was the prior episode, where the changeling knocked out Jack, and Jack hit the floor and he started breathing the air and he's starting hallucinating. He looked up at the changeling, and behind the changeling was this weird red, whatever, this red branch from a tree. Yeah. So now there's a connection. Like, what is this? What is the red branch things? And what is the significance in the story? Because we obviously aren't done. There's still bigger things going on.
It's still 6 episodes to go, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And you even saw, like, at the end, which I thought was kind of cool too. At the very end, you see Admiral Picard, personal log, stardate, just like you would in the
but
in the regular episode.
He's retired, man.
He's still an admiral, though. Doesn't matter. So he did his normal thing. He talked in the log and said, "There's a bigger thing going on. We got to get to this. Whatever."
Yeah.
And then the ship flies away, which is perfect.
Yeah.
So it's really unfolding very nicely.
It is perfect pace as well. I did initially give it an 8 out of 10, but Gray inspires me sometimes. So I actually, after talking over with it and watching it twice, it does deserve a bit more. No, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's not quite perfection, very close to it, hence a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed seeing the crew work together, both new and old, and doing what they do best in the olden days and troubleshoot an issue and get out of a life or death. I mean, not many crews would have done that, Gray. Got out of the situation they were in. They would have stuck by, let's save our power and someone will find us, as Riker states regulation. But no one was ever going to find them. They are outside Federation space. Most of the fleet, the vast majority of the fleet, are off down Frontier Day. They're getting no bloody help. So enjoyed seeing that. Now, Gray, what was your score and why?
I went 10 out of 10, and the reason I did it was because I just, regardless of the little nitpicking, and it truly was only nitpicking.
Yeah.
everything for me from top to bottom totally was written so well. And there was so many moments, as we pointed out in this review, where simple little things that we've always complained about before, just put one bloody line in that will explain stuff. What's so
Oh
hard?
yes,
And then all of a sudden they're doing it throughout the episode, which is the way you should write. That's the way it should always be written.
gotta make sense.
You should expect good things like that. So the whole script and the way they plotted it out, the things that they wrote, all made sense. The whole thing about visiting 10 Forward 5 years ago, how it connected to Jack, and you realize it at the end. It was a whole interesting
That's
subplot
brilliant.
that took nothing away from the main one,
Yep.
but all blended in just fine. It wasn't overdone or ridiculous or anything like that. So everything just was clicking.
Yep. And
You
whoever
know.
wrote it is respect, Greg. Respect whoever wrote this. Done a
Mhm.
bag up job, didn't they?
And even though we've mentioned it before, the same thing. The music was also perfectly timed in just the right little places here and
Yeah.
there. Like when the Titan was fixed up, sort of. When it absorbed the energy and it was getting back to normal. You heard a little bit again of the Enterprise suite from motion picture, or and other music like
Yeah.
that. Just a little, just
Subtle
enough. It was only
for
a
you.
few seconds, but those few seconds mean a lot
Yeah.
because it was just like, yeah, that makes sense, and then it takes off.
Yeah.
So all that kind of stuff together with the rest of the music just all blends in just fine.
Yeah. It
So
does.
it's just
Does.
you know
Done a cracking job.
and now and essentially in the first 4 episodes they're easily averaging eight and even 9 out of 10 in every episode.
Yeah.
So heck, man, you can't ask for better than that.
No, you cannot.
You know.
Well done, guys. Overall, so far, just keep it up, and we'll have a winner on our hands. But yeah, that's us to the end there. It was such a good episode
Mhm.
that we talked a little bit longer than we usually do, but it was required, I think. So
Sure.
yeah, of course, the usual quick call to arms. We always appreciate comments below what you like and dislike, but obviously cheeky thumbs up and subscriptions are always welcome. And of course, we do the audio platform as well, and wherever you listen to podcasts at the Trekway as well, so you can listen to us as well, and on Twitter at the Trekway as well. Don't forget, Gray and I will be next week. We do Gray's Green Room, which is kind of entertainment in general, and we'll be recording next week for you guys. And he can be found on YouTube and podcasting platforms at Gray's Green Room as well, and on the Twitters.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's us for until next week, Gray. So until then, thanks for coming along, mate, and do your thing.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
See you later, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.